Hello, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well, and I am really excited because I have someone super special that I'm going to be talking to today for this interview. I am talking to Liz Kloczkowski, and hopefully I got that correct this time.
You did.
Who most of you probably know from her work since you're on my channel, on Star Trek Picard seasons 2 and 3, where she was the art director and was one of the, if not the head, behind creating that beautiful, beautiful Enterprise-D set. Alongside many other things on both of those seasons as well. But you probably also know her work from other things like Promising Young Woman, Quantum Leap as well. I was like looking through your resume. I'm like, dang, you've done really well for yourself. It's been great. But who surprisingly, weirdly enough, I actually know from before all that because we actually went to college together and we actually had classes together. Way back at Ithaca College, like I think we had like a directing class together. I think was the first one. Was that?
Maybe was it advanced directing with what was his name?
I think that's what was it. The one where
or
we had
with Chang? Did you have any classes with
oh
Chang or
oh
with
I had my thesis class with Chang. I believe I did have a directing class with Chang. Did we do the one together where we had to like direct a scene in the middle of class? Was that us? I think
what was his name?
I can't remember.
It was
either. I was trying to remember that too.
Guido Santi, I think. Was that his name?
I have my memory. I remember
yeah.
Chang, and I remember oh God, our professor. I don't know if you had her at the same time I did, but Phil May who was certainly a personality.
Zimmerman. Yeah, she was tough.
She was a personality. So yeah, no, I was just
funny. Yeah,
it was
back in the day.
It was funny because I noticed that you were on and now you've gotten very famous for doing the Enterprise-D set, but I saw that you were on Picard season 2. I was like, oh my God, hey, awesome, that's kick ass. So congratulations on doing so well.
It was fortunate.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's it kind of Picard really blew up, but not now I'm working a lot more. But that was definitely the biggest jump.
Yeah, well, now you're now part of the Star Trek family, so now you're never getting away. This is with you forever, I would presume. It will follow you.
Yeah, with
forever.
the Enterprise-D for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm sure I hope you understand that probably till like the day you die, there will be people asking you questions about it. I hope you understand.
Yeah. No, I already know now. Yeah.
Yeah. Weirdos like me will be like
so iconic. So
yeah, no, it's great.
I'm like piggybacking off of it was iconic then, so it's just like all the same stuff that everyone's excited about.
But
nostalgia.
I mean, like why don't we start there? And I wanted to talk about your whole career and like everything that you do, but I guess since we're already there, like some of the stuff that I was like reading on Twitter, like I think Dave Blast was tweeting out and things like that, was like how much work you had to do to just like get the wood grain and like and get the carpet. So do you want to talk about all that? Because that sounds like a certain particular amount of hell to do all that research to get all that accurate.
Well, that's kind of what I do for a job is find what they need, and what the director and what the designer and what does the set need. And sometimes it's really hard and other times it's easy, but this was one of those where it had to be right. So it was definitely a tough process. But I've worked on like Kellogg's commercials where I was shopping for cereal bowls for 3 days and it has to be the right bowl. So I kind of have that mentality. And I came up in commercials, and commercials are a little bit more desperate as far as like getting the right thing. But that's kind of my personality. And so I definitely was allowed to run rampant because it was the Enterprise-D and they let me, like, it had to be right. And, well, can we cut costs and do it this way? No, it can't be that way. And they kind of let me be myself with it. And everyone indulged me because it was so important.
Yeah.
And so you spiral into the psychosis a little bit. And then when you're going to find, oh, okay, well, what does it look like? Well, what does it really look like? Let me double check this with the legacy people were really good about helping me like make decisions. How do you remember it? Was it this orange or was it darker or was the beige? All of this, like I had all of these questions, but the carpet, the red carpet, it's like a Berber. It's got like a little dot to it.
Yeah.
So they were calling it Berber dot, and I looked it up, and like Berber dot like was gone. Like by the end of the 80s, it was already like nobody was using it anymore. The gray carpet was still at Linoleum City, and I researched and interviewed somebody who worked in the flooring department when the sets were at Paramount. And so they said, oh yeah, we got all that carpet from Linoleum City. So I'm at Linoleum City, like seeing what they have in stock, and the red carpet just didn't exist. So that was, I can't put something that's not the right carpet in, you know, I can't, like when you start substituting, and it's hard when you're recreating something because the substitutions, too many substitutions kind of make you,
it gives it like the uncanny valley sort of vibe to it.
Yeah, people not recognize it, and especially on this set, everyone's going to recognize it because everybody remembers it a certain way, you know, and they have their memories from watching the show in the 80s and 90s and their childhoods, and your childhood memory has a little vignette on it anyways. So that was it was very important to get it right, and also this is a really hard fan base to please. So if you get it wrong, like Twitter is very loud, and people are very opinionated because they are so passionate about it. Like it's honestly, it's a great fan base, but it's the toughest fan base, and they're very particular and will nitpick you. And so every time I go, I'm like, oh, if I make a substitution, who's going to notice? You know, and you really think about like, am I going to get caught, or will this kind of fit that nostalgia, or how do I remember it? Because I watched it in the 90s, but you know, you watch it in standard definition, and now we're shooting everything 4K and widescreen, and there was all of this evolution that we had to study. So that, like, the carpet was hard because nothing really was right, and the reds don't show up correctly in SD. Like the uniforms were really red and they looked like burgundy or brownish, you know. So lighting really affects it. And my carpet, I think it looks a little bit newer than, like, it needed to be a little dustier, or a little like it kind of has like a, it's not as vibrant red as what we photographed, but we kind of let that go because it most likely was, and it's just kind of how it filmed. Well, I struggled with the carpet.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut. I mean, you could always make if you want to have an argument for the Trekkies out there, it's like, well, you know, Geordi just had it redone. You know, he had to touch it up. Right. Exactly.
Well, so I got away with that. Like the ship crashed, and so that was good for us to be like, we could have, you know, had the whole. I was like, do we have burn damage? Like that was a thought, but no, he's been restoring it, so we were able to just make it exactly as it was. But that was incredibly hard. And so I've made wanted posters, and I posted them up around the studio. Maybe somebody knew of a carpet their grandma had, or somebody has a carpet vendor. I messaged everybody, and I didn't want people to know what I was searching for. But with what I do, nobody really asks questions. If I'm just asking for like a spotted carpet that I need for something, like no one really thought twice about it. But I asked,
like, what do you need this carpet for? Dang it!
No, it wasn't really that. No one, because there wasn't suspicions about it yet when we were prepping it. But that red carpet, the gray I had right away, but the red was a giant struggle, and I ended up finding it in a pile of samples, like last minute samples, pretty close to when I needed to order it. And there was like, I had maybe 12 samples left, and I went through it and I looked at one of them, and it seemed to be the right one. But Dave thought it was funny, but also felt bad for me. You know, just desperately searching for the right, because it couldn't, nothing could be wrong. I had a few little things that little sacrifices we had to make due to budget or whatever that I'm hoping nobody notices.
I didn't notice anything. And also, speaking of carpet, it's just funny too, because that was like, did you hear any like of the memes going on? I think in even season 2 with some of the when people saw the Stargazer had like no carpets. We was like, oh, where's the carpeting? Dang it! And that contributed to any like stress.
Oh yeah, people were I mean, for me, not as much. I mean, maybe for people above me that really care about, you know, how. Like I care, but that was,
you don't care necessarily about the social.
I work.
No,
I do what the designer asks. You know, art directors kind of we're the realizers of the vision. You know, so you're a bit of a visionary. You definitely are creative, but it's about creative solutions and about like making it tangible. So if boss wants it shiny floor, we're doing shiny floor. You know, and that was kind of our motif. Like I had a bunch of sets that were in the Titan but weren't the Titan bridge, and I had to copy kind of what they already had established a vernacular, you know. So it was shiny floors, but there was I did see on the internet there was a lot of people missing the carpet, but
I think it gets a line in the show too. I think Picard says something about like has a joke about the carpet or whatever, right? I think, or did I make that up? Yeah. No, that was, and that's people were kind of like, oh, I came full circle. Yeah. Once he said that, you know, a lot of people were laughing out loud, but
yeah, that was just the living room vibe was the Herman Zimmerman original designed, Andrew Probert there, they had this like fun high tech living room. Like this is where as you're traveling in space for a long time and you have to be comfortable. And so carpet was, that was in.
Yeah, no,
but,
I
now
always,
it's more.
I'm sorry, couldn't you cut you off?
No, it's okay. I kind of talking to run on sentence.
No,
it's fine.
You're good. It's great. It makes my job really easy. No, but I mean, I always joke the Enterprise-D. This is me being a Trekkie at you, so apologies. But the Enterprise-D I think is the dumbest starship design because it always looks so top heavy to me. But then the bridge I always thought was the best bridge design because it does look very comfy. Like who puts wood paneling on a bridge? That's just it's so 80s and I love it.
Because it's sleek. They wanted it to be sleek and upscale, but also they wanted it to be comfortable. And this is like what these people do every day. And so it's not like, oh, I'm an astronaut. They're not astronauts. They're futuristic space travelers. And this is just a way of life. Like they don't use money, and they're it's hundreds of years later. So I love that design. And honestly, it's the fact that we copied it, like we redid it, but it still stands as like such a great. Like we're getting credit for all this great design work that we did, but it wasn't. It was a restoration. It's detail work.
Well,
it's like the design was from it's from the like it's Herman's design.
Yeah, well, it's still like a lot of work to get that right. And as you say, like getting it in 4K, because that was the thing that shocked me while watching it was like this looks really, really good in 4K and does like fit the nostalgia. It kind of reminds me of we talk about like video game remaster sort of thing is like, oh, when you remaster a video game, you want it to play like you remember it playing, not what it actually played like. And that's kind of the same vibe that I got here, where it was like, this feels like how I remember it. But if I went back and jumped back to what it was, it's like, oh, this is definitely different, but you managed to capture it really, really well.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think part of it was making it right. They're going to film it how they film it, but as long as it was what it was, then you're safe in the accuracy of it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you had to like, just like a big change, or if you don't want to say, if you want to keep your secrets to yourself, that's really fine. But is there anything that was like a big change from what was before that you had to make for like, just because it was shot in 4K or just something you couldn't find or something like that?
No, all the big changes that are there that aren't like, I guess 100% accurate are just things I didn't catch before it built. And I was like, oh no, like we built it. And they were like, yeah, there's no going back.
You're dealing with it now.
They're so small that, that honestly, like nobody, I've been on Twitter and not a lot of people have caught it, but there's like a slight shape in the curve of the ceiling that's not as deep as it was back then. And that's kind of just how we milled the foam. And I didn't catch it, or I would have had the sculptors like deepen it, but it was already up there and painted and plastered by the time I caught it. So that there's just a little like uniqueness in the ring around the ceiling, and the con and ops consoles are not exactly right. Their shapes are like maybe 1 inch different, like in width, but that was because I was working with. We had like archives had consoles that weren't right that we fixed. But we didn't fix them like 100%. Yeah, they had like, I think they were from not the Vegas exhibit, but they had some things for us to work on as a base. Gotcha. Kind of like a dress form. And so we did a lot of work to fix those, but there's a couple of like inch discrepancies that I see sometimes but I guess I'm the biggest critic because I've been staring at it for so long.
But that's also,
so I see like these slight.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, you're the one who makes it so you notice all the flaws really quickly. But I also think, and again, it's also, Trekkie nerd at you, it's explainable in universe too. It's like, hey, it got dented, Geordi didn't buff out the dent,
or he used a different material because they didn't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
But and that was actually the big change that we did too. Were on the aft consoles. There's actually 7 screens. There's 5 big ones and then 2 side ones in the back aft. Those weren't. They were like CRTs. So they had like a little like the video that they had was a little square built into the big screen, and then everything else, all the blinky lights were all like hand manned blinky lights, and they had like a spinning wheel and all these things to kind of make the aft come to life. And I was against TVs or screens, I guess they call it, the monitors, because everything we have is pretty wide and the aft is pretty square. And I was like, to Todd Marks, our video coordinator, I was like, our playback coordinator, I'm like, we're not going to fit the widescreen TVs in the aft. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be stuck with, a video like this, and my graphics have to be all around it. And I was super against it. And he was like, no, I'm going to find you something. And he found pretty square. They're just not as widescreen as what we're used to, but he found pretty square monitors, square-ish. And I just had to fix, I had to mat in to the actual size on the aft. But the cool thing about that is that then we were able to control all the graphics. So all the blinky lights and all the stuff that they manually did, we did in the playback.
I saw,
I
saw
we could
some
control
of your
everything
behind the scenes of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like any light could light up, and it wasn't just like, oh, that's a light that's attached to a circuit that somebody had to trigger. The playback guys did it, so it was all done in graphic design, and then the guys in the control room running screens, and so you have way more control that way. And so that was a diversion from how they ran the L cars. I mean, they had TVs, but it just, you could see like whatever graphic they had was always like inside that little square, and we were able to kind of play with it a lot more. But that I had to be sold on it. And Todd, whenever he showed up with the TV, and I was like, if the mat is too big and it's too widescreen, I'm not doing it. And he showed it to me, and it was only like the black in the design was part of the mat, and so I was like, all right, like that's what we're doing. But when but I'm not doing the spinny wheels and all the blink. Like, it would have been a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, it looks amazing when I saw it on screen. So I was like, especially with the shots were like
the beauty shots they did.
Yeah, I was like, the first shots when they're coming on and you get like the shots of everything turning on, I was like, that looks really, really, really good. So
yeah, well, it looks good because it was in camera. And there's something about shooting stuff the VFX on this show is amazing. Like, I'm not knocking that at all, because they really did an outstanding job. But when you do stuff that feels real, like even in like the Villeneuve Blade Runner and the stuff that they shot in camera with minis and with, it's just like there's something about tangible about it. That because it's there in the space, and it's not like you said, the uncanny valley where our eyes sometimes know that there's effects, or that we're being tricked.
So
when it's there,
we can't,
and
the
actors
can't
love
articulate
it
it, but we see it. But yeah, sorry, cut you off.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Where you're there's something that doesn't line up, or it's a millisecond off, and your brain is trained to notice it. But on the playback, it's kind of nice because it's there, and the actors love it because they have stuff to respond to. So that was, and now it's actually an added thing for us. Now we have to time the playback with we have to explain to the actors what's going to come up on the screen, so that they know, oh, okay, I'm going to say something, and then a graphic's going to show up. So that's all like theatrical coordinating now.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Interesting. And how did because you must have been there when the actors were there then. So like how was it like getting to see like the TNG crew on the set that you like made and got to work with them on that?
Oh yeah, no, I was just crying in the corner. It was fine. Like and I was like, art directors aren't normally on the set. Like, we were there to open the set, and we're there to for the director to see it, and Terry had been there, so I knew we were on the right track. But they're gonna show all the actors the set. Like, I'm running around the back, coming in through emergency turbo lift to stand in the corner and watch everybody look around. Like, Dave was right next to me, and we're both the Trek nerds, like, sobbing slightly. But there is a video out there. I hope somebody posts it. Somebody videoed all of their reactions. And so Jonathan Frakes had seen it because he was directing. So he was he was in the stages a lot. But to see them walk in for the first time, Marina had just arrived. I don't think Gates had seen it for the first time. So there was a lot of people, LeVar and Michael, they all kind of came in and saw it for the first time. And just seeing their reactions from like, it was their home for years, and they like Michael came in and sat down in a chair and just looked around, and he was kind of in shock. And LeVar went right to his engineering station and pulled out his stool. And I was actually laughing because they didn't tell me, but it was there was debate on whether we could afford to make the stools real. And I thankfully someone in construction was like, no, we're going to make the stools. We're doing it. And then, because then it had to be upholstered, and there was all this stuff. So they could have just been dummy stools, or there could have just been one working one. But LeVar went right up to his chair, and it was the right chair. And Marina almost immediately cried. And Gates, her little banquette seat, the little seat next to the, like to the side of Troy and Riker's chairs, she was like, "Look at my chairs," And Patrick didn't remember them because they had changed so often. He remembered it like when there was nothing, or I think they were plexi at one point, and they were little like small chairs, and they weren't the ones that we had until season 6. And so I don't know if Patrick just doesn't, he remembers it like,
He's like,
it's how
yeah,
it's exactly what the fans have.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like you remember it how you like the episode that you stuck with you the most.
yeah.
You know,
Interesting.
so it
Yeah,
was funny kind of how everyone remembers things a little differently.
yeah. It's that interesting sort
But
of factor, especially since like that set changed too several times. And I
it
know
did.
yeah, over the course of what 7 years in a movie. So
It did. So that was actually my big, like the first step I had to do was figure out what bridge we were doing because it had evolved. And so everyone kind of looks to the pilot, but the pilot changed. Like in the second episode, they added lights and they changed a lot of stuff because there was stuff that wasn't working like filmically. So we
yeah,
had decided that we were going to do.
Is super, super dark actually compared to the rest of that series. Yeah.
It is. No, it is. And the furniture, the upholstery on the chairs changed and the banquette chairs changed like 3 or 4 times. The carpet actually changed. The darkness of the carpet changed. The turbo lift was totally redone in season 7. So we ended up choosing season 7, not Generations, but like at the where we remember where our brains left off, we had to go there.
Gotcha. Makes
So
sense.
that so I had to study all of the changes because the drawings that we have were drawn in like 87. So we have the drawings from the pilot. We don't have drawings from season 7. So I can give people the drawings to start off of, but then I have to change as they changed. I have to kind of direct them on how it changed. And so that was a big study session. And Jörg, that's how you say it, right? Jörg Hillebrand, our research assistant, who's our Twitter friend, because he's just like the ultimate Star Trek knowledge source. He has a couple of articles that he pointed me to that explained it all. And so it really is just like you can't scan it. You just have to sit and like your brain has to process how it changed, and then you can explain it to everybody else.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm trying to think if there's any more specific questions I had on that. I guess I also wanted to ask you about like what other sets you did on Star Trek as well, because I know you're on season 2. I think you did. Did you do what was it? Soon's like Brent Spiner's lab, right? In season 2, I believe that was you?
That was Joe.
Okay, gotcha.
Joe is the season 2 art director. I came into season 2 late. I replaced somebody, the assistant art director who was leaving. So I came in as the assistant art director, and then the art director I was working for, he left, and so I called Dave up when that was happening, and I was like, I want that job.
Oh yeah,
and it was I'm not as experienced as everybody else, and so it was like debate on is it the right choice. That's always how it is when you upgrade somebody.
Of course,
yeah. But I think he had confidence, and somebody told him I was watching Deep Space Nine because I was.
Yeah.
Because I had never seen it, and so I was like deep in Deep Space Nine, and he was like, all right, I'm gonna give her the shot. So they let me art direct a bunch of sets in episodes like 7, 8, 9, 10 of season 2, but I had all of the LA stuff, the downtown LA stuff, and I had this ship, the Vulcan spaceship in the 70s.
Gotcha.
And the NASA gala, Bruce Booner and I did together. So
there was a lot of
stuff that was really like
that was really good one.
Yeah, that one was we knocked that one out of the park, and that was the most fun because it's sci-fi, it's NASA, it's space, it's all the stuff that you love, and you're like, oh, am I rewriting Star Trek history right now? Like you have to be careful with what you're putting in the history guides because it becomes canon, so you can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
But that was season 2, and then kind of at the end of season 2, they moved me. Dave gave me the Ilios, Beverly's Ilios, and the sick bay, and then I was super, super busy. Yeah, so I had those prepping at the same time, and they prepped and shot like back to back. So it was a lot.
For the sick bay, what did you draw upon for that? Because it looked to me like very similar to Voyager's sick bay to a degree, but I'm curious what you drew upon for that.
I mean, it had the
like that blue wall
sanitation, like force field. Yeah. That was from Voyager, because that was Voyager's in the timeline. That's the closest show to our timeline, even though still, years have passed, like 20 years, 20 something years have still passed. But that was like, we were looking at that technology. Being honest too. So yeah. Well, yeah. And that was like, you're in that set a lot. And so we were this sick bay, because Beverly was coming back. We were like, the sick bay should be a really good shootable, that should be a dialed in set, but we also wanted to upgrade it, and we wanted it to feel Trek, but still new or still advanced, because I mean, we hospitals now from 30 years ago, like, look different. Even that, like, you think 30 years ago is the 90s. Like, how did hospitals look in the 90s? there were still all the same elements, but they just look sleeker, or now there's iPads. You know, even like in Grey's Anatomy, you see their hospitals change, and like the technology is added as they're going. So that's kind of what we tried to do, is start with some Voyager stuff. We have, you know, a lot of the design is to make it shootable, and it's like the beds are drawing on sickbay beds all the way to, you know, TOS. But yeah, it was just kind of trying to make it fun and, you know,
it looked great.
Like it feels like a sick bay.
Yeah, no, it does. It's a really good job, especially for season 3. Not that season 2 was bad by any means. I love the sets there too, but especially for season 3, it did have that like great sense of updating what TNG Voyager did, and DS9 as well, but then sort of bringing in a new sheen to it. And it looked, I think you did an amazing job, and everyone did an amazing job on that. So
thank you. Well, and we had to tie it to the Titan too. Like it's a ship on the Titan. Yeah. So the bridge, I mean, we had to tie it into the bridge. So there was a lot of architectural elements that were already designed, you know, on a set that I didn't really work on, that I had to borrow from, you know. So like my first week was there, just in there studying, like what did you use for this? What is that material? You know, like all the stuff I had to order. That look, we brought a lot of that vernacular back, you know, that the materials vocabulary, like what they use on the walls and their paint colors. But you know, Dave wanted to he wanted to evolve the paint colors into being medical. You know, would it be more white? Like Discovery's sickbay is like white, you know, and we don't want it to be white, but we want it to be a lighter palette than the grays that were on the bridge. So we played with all of that to try to make it like look like it's a room on that ship. But also we like the nostalgia is still like, nostalgia is like a silly word, but yeah, I mean, we had to have all the elements that
it's nostalgia. It can be a double-edged sword because it can help guide you, but then you don't want to be too stuck to it as well either, right? Especially when you're making a new set as well. And speaking of Discovery, like, did you coordinate with anyone on the other shows like Strange New Worlds or Discovery, or were you pretty like siloed on Picard? Because I know you're all different eras anyways, but I was curious if there's any coordination.
Well, they're different eras, but we're different countries, so it's hard. The Canadian crews, I know that Discovery and Strange New Worlds share stuff. And they share tips, and I think they have a shared warehouse, or I'm not quite sure how. I've never worked with them, but we were the LA crew, so we're kind of on an island.
Yeah, I figured we did study.
Yeah, we did study though. Like, oh, what are they doing? Like that stuff is cool. Like Dave had this. He loved this element on the walls of their set, and it was like a kitchen utensil painted. You know, and he's like, "This is genius. Like, why are we not doing this?" You know, so that you definitely learn from, because they're all the same, like the Star Trek universe, you know, and you just have to be careful. Like, oh, I don't want to use a chair that's from the year 3000 because then now it's a 3,000-year-old chair. So we had to be careful about that, and it's hard when you're shooting at the same time. So sometimes stuff slips.
It happens.
You think about like we've got Baroque chairs still exist, you know, and like it's hundreds of years have gone by, and we still, you know, we're still using moldings, and you know, even we're using moldings from the Greeks, you know, and the Romans. So I think you get away with it a little bit, but it's also like, oh, it's the exact same, you know, as what Kirk used in this episode. So you have to really be careful about that stuff.
Dang it, Kirk, he's always screwing everything up. Yeah,
I know. No, and Yerk was really good about helping us. Like we could run stuff by him, and he like in his brain, he's like an encyclopedia, and so he'll know if it was used before. You know, and he could send you a screenshot of like, yep, that was used in this episode, and then we could weigh whether we're going to use it again or not. And they love that though, like the reusing of sets, like that's such a Trek thing, and it's great because it saves us, you know, money, or it's just this stuff is there and you repaint it, you know, and that's, you know, it's such a Trek thing that we had to kind of pull back. So like the hex barrels, you know, like they exist in that world, so they're coming back.
There's the Planet Hell set that they had for 14 years essentially for TNG into Voyager, and I think Deep Space Nine even used it, or like that one cave set that apparently every planet has. Like every planet has the same caves.
No, they were like, oh, this is on the lot, so we're gonna use it, you know. And they have all these. If you have all the elements, I mean, we did that on. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about what we reused, but there was a bunch of main sets on season 3 that was all the same set.
Yeah,
it was the same stage and the walls were there, but you take out all the stuff that makes it unique, and everything else that's that's usable, you kind of rethink it in a different way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think it all looked really cool, and so it was great. Is there anything like else that you did busy on the sets? Like, did you do any prop design? I know that's a different department technically, but I was wondering how much you coordinate with that or anything. No.
We all work together. It's mostly Dave who works the props, kind of shows Tim what they're designing and what they're working on. So it's mostly goes through the production designer, and I'm only if there's like a specific request, and maybe I know I'll bring it to them. But they props is basically their own thing, and even set dressing, like they designed a lot of their own furniture, and I'm involved a little bit if it's like something that's part of the set designers designed it and it's a set deck piece or it's furniture, and then they take it over. So I'll kind of supervise that when it's in construction and paint, and like the special stuff like the nacelle control table. That was a special effects prop shop build. Technically set deck had stuff in it, props had stuff in it. Oh, the actors are touching this, so it's props, but all these things that light up are set deck, and special effects is making the isolinear chips and the actuator. And so I'm kind of there like keeping it cohesive.
Yeah.
But or like, oh, we're going to design the Klingon cloaking device and it needs to fit into this table. So I like if that's all of that stuff. I'm kind of the bridge between all of these elements. But they're usually special occasions. Normally the departments, they do their own thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's very cool. One other thing I wanted to ask you, just because I'm a fan of it too. What did you do in Quantum Leap? Just randomly jumping shows.
Oh, but, yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I did the first 12 episodes of Quantum Leap. Really? I was art director on it. So like we set the scene up. We did the main HQ set. We did Addison's apartment, and I guess every time period set for the first 12 episodes, which is a different time period per episode. And that was every 7 days we were doing something new.
It's fun and stressful.
Yeah, but that was no, and it just wasn't a good fit. So I found another job. So I'm on a Netflix show now. So a lot of times you replace yourself, and if things aren't working out, someone else is happy finishing up that. And they're already in season 2. Quantum Leap's already in season 2. But yeah, no, I had a ton of fun on the first 12 episodes. I just
yeah, no, I think it looks
on to better things.
Yeah, of course.
And that one was harder too, because it's like I come from the world of Easter eggs, where you're hiding all of this stuff from a show that another reboot, and Quantum they weren't as interested in that kind of nostalgia. Like they were more interested in doing just a completely new show, a new cast, new everything. But it definitely was a hard job for the art department, because 7 days is not a lot of time to turn around like huge builds. And like we were doing like 1970s, and then we were doing a nuclear facility, and it's like mind-blowing a little bit, how involved it is. So Godspeed to whoever's there now.
Yeah, I could bet. I honestly have no idea how the hell, like even bring it back to Star Trek, how they did like 26 episodes of stuff. It seems like you'd like have a panic attack just doing things like a year.
But it's not as much, because they had the ship built and they had multiple sets. Like they're called amort sets. Which are sets that live every episode. So they have the bridge, they have 10 forward, they have the ready room, turbo. There was a whole episode shot in like a turbo lift. Like they had so many sets that they could come up with to put people in. They had engineering, that the cell rooms, and they did build. Oh, here's a unique set for that episode. But you could do a whole episode on the bridge, and if you did that buys time for the art department to do something else. So they're building something. Oh, okay. Exactly. Like when I was on How to Get Away with Murder, they had bottle episodes that were all in the courtroom or all in our main character's apartment. And that bought us some time. Oh, we need 4 weeks to pull this off. Producers and the ADs, they would all look at it and be like, oh, we can give you what you need to get this beautiful thing done. And it's hard when there's not the turnaround time is not a lot, because there's only so much time in a day to build something, paint it, scenic it, fit TVs in it, set dress it, prop it. Like there's just so much involved in what we do. And so if there's just not enough time to do it, it ends up being like not fun.
Yeah.
And so when they did the 27 episodes, like, they had to get creative. And they went to the Western towns, because there was, let's go off lot.
Yeah.
Or let's stay on the lot and go to the Western town. Let's write something in there. Or the cave. Oh yeah, we've got that silly cave. What can we write in? And they filled up their time doing it. But it's hard now, because we're so, television is basically, it's cinematic. I mean, where everyone's looking for that filmic look.
You're
Like
making a
the
movie every
quality
week,
is
essentially, yeah.
like you are, and it's an hour movie, so it's not quite the hour and a half that, or the 2 hours or 3 hours that big movies are doing. But you look at Lord of the Rings on Amazon, like that's a fucking movie. Sorry, I don't. We're on air, no swearing.
You
But
can say whatever the fuck you want. You're fine. I don't give a
okay,
shit. You're fine. The YouTube rule is
no,
weird,
but
where it's like if you say fuck in the first like 2 minutes, then it'll ding you. But then after that, they don't care. It's weird. It's like, oh, okay,
okay, great.
yeah. So say whatever you want. It's fine.
All right. This is my first YouTube video. But they no, it's a movie, and like so Star Trek 2 was a movie every episode times 10, so that's 10 screen hours, and that's not stuff that we didn't use. And so that's that when the quality, like the special effects guys on our show, they're movie guys. They're not really TV guys. But the stuff that we're doing is movie caliber, and so movies get 3, 6, 9 months to prep,
For
and then
2
all the
hours.
stuff's ready, and then you shoot it all. Yeah, no, exactly. So it's definitely that's a challenge, and for us, like we have the bridge, so they're in the bridge every episode, and so that buys us some time to, pull off the other sets. But we were pulling off Star Trek stuff too, which is what set do we have that we can make something else? And then meanwhile, I'm like trying to make it make sense, and like
yeah,
there's reused stuff that annoyed people, but you do what you can in the budget that you have.
No, it looks great. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you're like, I've been dying to talk about this, that you haven't gotten a chance to? Is there anything that you haven't gotten a chance to discuss?
No, I mean it's there's a story for everything, So like you ask me about, I'll fixate on the horseshoe. We talk about the horseshoe or like I talked about the carpet for like 15 minutes, So there's so many things. Like everything kind of has its funny story. I will say, maybe Dave talked about it, but we brought Herman Zimmerman to the set. We snuck him in on a weekend to look at it.
Yeah.
And it was really awesome to see someone who, like, he was on original set, and you're there like, oh, what is he going to say? Or, is he going to like it? Or is there something wrong or whatever? And he told us it was like the best built version of the set he had ever seen.
Congratulations.
And I was like, that was awesome. It was so awesome to see him. Like, he went right into the turbo lift and he was like, where are all the ding marks and the foam falling off the walls? And they built stuff out of pool noodles back in the day, and we like didn't do that. We have CNC machines and foam mills and super awesome sculptors and plasterers and painters, and like the crafts people are just like, everyone put their love into the set. So that was, it's really cool. There's an anecdote really for everything, but it was cool to see Herman and Dan came to visit one like secret Saturday, and I'm like in the dark set with them and Dave and Doug Drexler. Like, how did I get here?
That's legit a dream. That sounds amazing.
Right. Yeah. No, it's every day you're like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely wonderful. And like, so much congratulations to you, like getting that far and getting to do all this, because that's like legit a dream. So I'm just so happy for you. And that's wonderful.
I mean, just to work on it, that was really the dream. And now, like, you look at Twitter and there's all these people that are like thanking you for bringing back their childhoods, and like it just wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't something expected, to get that good of. We were kind of afraid, kind of what the reaction would be. Like, you never know, But to get like, there's not a lot of notes, I'm like, oh, I would do it this way. No, the big note right now is people want black squares.
the ones that were like on the screens you're talking about that people stuck up on there.
That's what everyone's asking. They're like, where are the black squares? And I'm like, oh, it was so good that we didn't need black squares, guys. Like,
it's wonderful. That's the kind of note I bet you'd want to get. Yeah. Well, I did want to like say to you in person, like legitimately, I think you did like a fantastic job, and everyone did this season. Like, it looked absolutely amazing, and you did like bring back like the nostalgia, but do it in a way that again like made it look like and I'm sure many remember it versus like what it actually was, and they mean that as like the highest compliment. So that's exactly great. So
thank you so much. No, and even like when you watch it, I worked on the show. And I'm like sobbing while watching it, and I'm like, "What is wrong with me?" But Data, like, you just get these like feelings, and like they Terry pulls your heartstrings, and then to see like the actors, the legacy actors, all sitting in your set, and I'm like,
yeah,
just tears every episode, and that's what a great, like, to feel that way, like, call me a nerd, but I care, it's people that care about it,
It's not an insult to be a nerd. That's amazing. That's
no,
yeah.
yeah, it is exactly.
And like I said, this is something that you'll be like, literally, like, I'm sure 20, 30 years from now, you're still going to be getting the same exact question. So I'm glad I get to be one of the first before you get tired
thanks.
of it. Well,
yeah, I know, right? Well, even my family, I'm like talking to them about Star Trek and nobody wants to hear about it anymore. I'm like so excited.
Yeah. Well, one last question for you to wrap out on, and that is favorite episode. Favorite episode, not of this season, of past Star Trek. So you don't have to rank what you did, but past Star Trek.
Oh yeah. It's hard. I have like one for every show, but probably Measure of a Man.
Yep,
I think that's my favorite TNG episode.
That's actually, I did a ranking on my channel a while ago, and that was my favorite episode as well. So same, it was great.
Oh really?
Yeah, legitimately.
Oh, yeah. I think it was or Inner Light. There's between the two of them because they really get you in your thinking, and you're like Asimov, and you're like, oh, but the future and robot, or just like in general, like you start thinking outside of, oh, what are these bells and whistles that are going to impress me? It's like, well, if I did live in the future, what would happen? And if this was this, you start rationalizing it, and that I love that. Like then it makes you, critical thinking.
Exactly.
I'm
the weirdo. Awesome. I'm the weirdo hot take that I don't like the Inner Light, but that's because I'm the weirdo. That's the one. But Measure Man, I adore. We all.
Oh, good. Look at that. So it's a bit of, both ends.
People will don't worry. You're on the right side of things. People, I expressed that I did a video. I expressed that I disliked the Inner Light. Like I don't even hate. I just like, it's not one of my favorites. People were like, oh, you're the worst. It's the internet, so it's good.
It is. It is. Everyone's so passionate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, I will end out and say congratulations. Also, happy belated birthday, because yesterday was your birthday, right?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So happy belated birthday. And yeah, I look forward to everything else you're going to be doing, because I'm sure you're going to be doing amazing things, and it's awesome.
Thank you so much. Oh, no, and I love seeing your presence on Twitter. You've got the or on the internet in general. You've definitely made a name for yourself. People I know are like, oh yeah, I know Jessie Gender, and I'm like, you do? I know,
yeah. No, it's weird. It's weird. One of those weird things is like, wow, come a long way. I mean, I look pretty different from when we were hanging out in college. So yeah, no, it's true. It's weird. It's weird being like, oh wow, it's life happened. So where we're at now, it's kind of interesting.
It does, but it's also like when I've been friends with people that, like, say I've met somebody 10 years ago, but we stayed like internet friends, and so you're connected on Facebook, and people update, and as long as there's like enough updates, you follow them, and I feel like I know these people, and then I see them like decades later, and I'm like, oh yeah, I saw that, and I saw that, and how is this, and I know all this stuff. But that's the beauty of like modern social media, modern technology. We're all just all connected.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
It's nice to follow your arc too.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm just the weird dork that dances on the internet. You're making cool stuff, so it's all fun.
It's funny.
Well, we'll keep talking for just a second after I wrap up, but I just wanted to say thank you to you. And I'm sure people in the comments will send you also lovely messages. So thank you so much for doing this, and I wish you the best.
Thanks. Yeah, no worries.